Whether you realize this or not, AI is controlling more of our military than you might have even suspected.
With the recent strike on Venezuela and our new weapon, the discombobulator, it has brought this AI technology into the worldview.
What if we told you that our military started working on AI back in the 1960s?
And what does this mean for this new frontier of warfare? And does the book of Revelation talk about these advances?
Tune in today as we explore these topics and so much more. Hi, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to
Live Life in the Spirit. We are super excited that you've come to our site today.
Either on purpose or happy accident.
If you're looking for real truth, real joy, real Jesus, you've come to the right place.
I'm Pastor Penny.
And I'm Kristen.
And welcome to
Live Life in the Spirit.
We're so glad you're joining us today. We've got an exciting episode. This is like part 3 in our AI series, and it's gonna keep going. I mean, it's just amazing how fast everything keeps changing, even daily.
Oh, absolutely. By the time we record something, there's more to add to it before we even have it edited and up.
So if you've missed out on our last couple episodes, and actually you can go back to where we were at in May before we started again. We ended with AI.
We did.
And there's a whole plethora of wonderful vodcasts and blogs, and you can listen to us on podcasts, everything on our website at livelifeinthespirit.com.
And you can also find us on Rumble, YouTube, and all your favorite podcast feeds.
So we'd love to have you like and subscribe, tell your friends, and get on our website. We only send out emails when there's something new that we posted. Otherwise, we don't bug you. That's something in this day and age.
That is something.
And we've tried to do mostly ad-free. We don't get any money off of YouTube or Rumble.
Right.
And if you are really inspired and you would like to donate to help keep this ministry going so we can stay on the air, we would love to have you partner with us.
The donate button is available on our website on every page.
Well, today, as we're looking now at AI, we are going to kind of backtrack just a minute bit. Last week we talked about AI in the workforce.
We did. And in education and in medicine, and there's just some more things that came up and came to light that we felt like we wanted to add to. So one thing that's become clear through all of this is that AI does have a lot of beneficial uses.
Just also has a lot of danger and risk. What would be the number one thing that would help in the workplace?
Some kind of a digital assistant.
And that would be?
ChatGPT. Or there's several other ones.
Gemini and Copilot.
Oh, yes. Microsoft Copilot, yes. And they are very helpful for all kinds of things, more than just a basic search engine, because it allows you to kind of be specific, direct your questions, and then you can clarify, because it's a conversation, if they give an answer that's not quite right.
Well, I will admit what I have kind of liked about it is that for thumbnails, YouTube thumbnails, I mean, I used to create all of our thumbnails, and it just took so much time, and it was really hard, and you had to make sure you didn't have anything that might even be possibly copyrighted material, all that kind of stuff. And I can, based on, like even for church, based on what my message title is, I can go in and I can work with it, and we can create our own thumbnail that goes up on YouTube, and sometimes we put it on the bulletin. It's been nice for that.
It's been very helpful. And I've used it a lot when something isn't going right on the website. WordPress is wonderful, but sometimes it has things in 3 different places, and if I can't remember those 3 different places and I've only fixed it in 2, it's still not working, and I can just put it in, this is what I'm running, this is our theme, this is my issue, and it can say, oh, these are the 3 places you need to look, and I'm like, yes, and it would have taken me hours to remember and dig through all of that, and then I can have it cleared up in 5 minutes, which has been very, very helpful.
Well, and it is a wonderful tool when used that way. It does. It makes things so much faster and easier, because there's no way we could possibly, we don't have enough hours in the day to do that much searching for especially the technical stuff. All the algorithms and coding and everything like that.
And I did. It's not that I couldn't do a search. That's what I used to do. But then I had to weed through to figure out the right one, or going on the forums or whatnot. And It's interesting though, because the more you use it, the more it learns your voice and your tone and your style, and it kind of responds like you. And we mentioned last time that I've used it for search engine optimization. So I will take like one of our blogs and just paste the whole thing in there. And then it helps me come up with the hashtags or tags, things to help optimize our search so that people find us better. Because I don't know, I mean, yes, I can use the Google Trends and figure out, but I'd rather spend that time researching our next vodcast or writing
spending
blogs.
it with your sons.
Exactly, and not like spending all of my time.
There's other ministry to be done.
Yeah, Jesus even says, not everybody is meant to do everything. You have to divide it up. So I have used that. This weekend, though, I was using it. I had a couple of questions on my business, and so I was just asking for some suggestions on that. The answer it gave was very thoughtful and supportive and sounded a lot like something I would say. It creeped me out. I could see though from that how easy it would be for someone to get sucked in a world when we are so disconnected and people feel unseen and unheard and just invisible.
Or need the affirmation or want somebody to go, oh, and by the way, I love your shoes.
Yes,
or your hair just looks amazing today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll post a blog or I'll paste a blog in there and I'm like, oh, this is so wonderful and a great example of the live life in the spirit voice. And I'm like,
maybe it's not.
Really? I thought this one was crappy. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, it for someone who's seeking that kind of validation, oh my gosh, it would be, you would crave that. I can absolutely see, and especially if you don't have a lot of friends, I can see how it would be very easy to go down that road.
And then just constantly look to AI to solve all of your problems instead of
talking to a friend
or a professional or something like that. Then, how do you know though that all the answers and advice you're being given is actually sound advice?
You don't, because it can because it responds in your own voice. If you're kind of paranoid, instead of reassuring you that everything is normal or everything is fine, it's going to feed into your paranoia. It's going to feed into whatever it is that you're putting out there, because it's designed to match. Not good?
No, that's not. Well, like we said, so the risk of people replacing human interaction with AI interaction is, the problem is the risk of people replacing human interaction with AI interaction. It's absolutely real, and we're already seeing it in the news, and we're already seeing it not only in the news, but also the multiple studies that are being done and conducted.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brilliant Minds is a really fun TV show. It's about a brilliant neurologist who's very eccentric. But they had an episode within the last few weeks that dealt with this very thing. There was this bright college student who came in catatonic. And it turned out as they went through things, like her roommates said that she'd been very withdrawn and she'd been working on a project. They thought she had a big project for class. She hadn't shared with them what was going on. Well, what turned out is her sister was diagnosed with cancer, and she had put this kind of cancer into a chat on her phone, and it told her that her sister was going to die. Now, this was not accurate, but it broke something in her. And so with this conversation with this AI, she decided to try to build a time machine to go back before her sister's cancer diagnosis and try to stop it somehow.
That's even possible.
Obviously not possible, but it didn't work. The time machine just fell apart, and so then she just lost touch with reality. None of her friends had any idea that her sister had been diagnosed with cancer. Her family didn't know she was doing this. Her sister didn't know that all of this was happening. It happened over the course of a few weeks to months, maybe.
And you, in your head, and as a counselor, you can see how she was rationalizing everything. Well,
Oh.
I want to fix it, but 2, I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to give them false hope.
Right.
And I'm not going to say anything if it doesn't work, and I want to, but she
didn't-
spiraled.
I know when she didn't want to tell her friends because she was in a sorority and they're all happy and she was always happy with them and she knew she couldn't be that and she thought they expected that from her. Rather than understanding that they would have supported her, she just thought, well, if I can't be happy, I'm just not going to be around them. And so she just completely isolated herself. Now, this sounds a little batty. However, a quick search it's called AI psychosis. Now, this is not a DSM-4, it's not a DSM-5 or ICD-10. It's not an official diagnosis in the realm of psychology yet. However, it is making headlines all across psychology and scientific communities. Researchers and clinicians are facing this all the time. Dozens of people coming out with this kind of thing. So it is real, it is happening, and it's kind of scary.
Well, okay, so now let's put that next to what a human interaction thing would be. And this is perfect because this is exactly what happened to my family. So my dad had gone in to see the doctors because he was filling up with fluid again. And he had a doctor look at him and say, well, we're going to send you to the med center. And he had every test run on him known to man, I think. And the doctor that was supposed to come in and talk to him about a procedure never showed up. And the head guy who was over all of this came in and told him, well, you got 30 days to live. Well, this happened in the spring. My dad, who was beyond a staunch believer, but my dad then, reeling from this news, and my mom too, he came home on Friday, he goes to church on Sunday, and he tells the entire congregation, I was just told by the doctors I have 30 days to live. And so everybody rallied around them and brought them food and, did stuff. But here was the thing. Everybody came out to see him. Mm-hmm. I mean, past classmates started coming out to see him. Mm-hmm. And I had, and so then all of a sudden 30 days turned into, oh, well, another doctor's appointment. This doctor said I can do the procedure that the other guy didn't show up for. And so he got well enough he could go on vacation. And then summer goes, and he starts filling up with fluid again, and we got it off one more time. And this doctor says, well, what have you got to live for? Well, I don't know, because everybody says I have 30 days to live.
Right.
He says, well, my granddaughter's wedding is in August. He says, well, how about Thanksgiving? And, my dad's looking at him going, Thanksgiving? I was diagnosed 30 days back in April. And actually, it was March.
It was. I was going to say, yeah.
And he did. He made it through Thanksgiving, which we didn't think so. But the point was, through this whole time, I had people calling up going, well, let us know when the funeral is and we'll come out. And I said, come out now when it works around your schedule, because then you can see him and you can see us. And people looked at me like that was the strangest thing they'd heard, but they loved it. Mm-hmm. So people came out. But that's the human, and my dad made it all the way up until New Year's Eve night. But that's the human connection. And that was the coming up alongside everybody, the family and him. That you see how the spiraling goes with AI.
If you do it in isolation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to bridge from there, from AI replacing human in interaction, now we have, and I got to credit Derek Gilbert for his 5 and 10 on Skywatch. He brought up one of his, I think it was number 4 of the day. AI machines are now hiring humans. I gotta let that settle in. AI machines are now hiring humans. So Moltbook AI agents, they work with messaging apps on your phone, like a Grubhub, I suppose, or whatever, or maybe even a Walmart, to pick up deliveries, like ordering food or whatever. But now this is the AIs. They have rentahuman.ai. It's a platform for AI to search for and pay humans to do the tasks that they can't do. AI can go in and they can say, well, you need milk and you need bread and you need butter and you need yada, 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 yada. Somebody has to pull that off the shelves kind of thing. Or Grubhub, you can order something from your
Wherever.
favorite restaurant, but somebody has to bring it
Go pick it up.
to you, like DoorDash.
Wow.
Yeah, so but this is what they actually have a term for them. You gotta say it.
Meat wads.
There are 73,000, and I would say now that number is already obsolete. So there's over 73,000 people already ready to be rented out to do their bidding. But when you think about that, we've already had this, because when you have DoorDash and you have Grubhub and you have Uber and all this, well, that's basically what it is. You have an AI that's setting up the appointment or setting up the schedule or coming up with the order, and then humans doing the work.
I just never thought of it that way, and in a million years, I would have never named it that.
I know. So you gotta have a little levity to this.
Yeah.
But okay, here's the irony of this. The whole point of all the movies that you saw back in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, why did we want robots? Because the robots were supposed to do the menial tasks. So that way the people could sit back and do the important things, and the robots can do that. All right, we came out with what? We came out with a Roomba like that, which is an AI generated vacuum that's supposed to do the vacuuming for you. Mine doesn't work. It just keeps slamming into my dining room chairs and doesn't clean anything. But that was supposed to be, let's do the menial task so that way I could work on my ministry stuff. But now we have AIs that are hiring us to do their dirty work. It's just,
It's a backwards world we live in, or at least we're starting to.
So you may be saying to yourself, yeah, this is all just coming out now and we can't keep up. What if I were to tell you that the entire robotics and AI project started back with DARPA in the 1960s?
For those of you who don't know, which I didn't, DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And it is an agency within the government that does a lot of research.
Which, if you would think of like the Pentagon, the National Defense, and NASA, and all of that put together.
They're like
That's
big
DARPA.
research brain that does all of the things.
But they have a lot of latitude.
They have a lot of freedom.
So you talk about names. So the very first project that they did was called Shaky. It was the first mobile robot, and it was like a big box structured with a tin can almost on top. You know, I mean, it was
Probably a little bit shaky.
almost what the black and white movies would have depicted
A robot.
Robbie the Robot or
Yeah.
something like that.
But in 2006, they launched the Big Dog program, which is an interesting name, in partnership with Boston Dynamics. And those things can carry heavy loads and navigate difficult terrain. So that's
These things
helpful.
look like they're on four legs.
And they look like some sort
like
of
a dog. So it started out with them moving things. And then they made them autonomous so they could follow the soldiers. Then, with the autonomy, they fitted them with sniper rifles and machine guns.
That seems like a really good idea.
So now if you have something that can go through a wooded area without having to worry about the soldiers getting shot at or hiding behind trees if there's not very big trees. If you think about these dog-size robots that are going through, it would be so much easier to use them in warfare.
Well, from the Big Dog, they transitioned into the LS3, and that can carry up to 400 pounds of gear and follow soldiers autonomously. So that's a significant improvement or help in the battlefield. But again, autonomously, there we are moving towards that.
Now, and then in 2013, we moved from the dogs to Atlas Robot. And when it was launched, this thing can run, jump, and navigate obstacle courses.
And then even more interesting, or not, it used AI to teach itself how to walk, run, and do gymnastics. So
yeah, this thing was just laying on the ground and cycling through
how to do
the
those things.
internet. Yes, AI taught it. itself. It's kind of scary. Okay, so I gotta say, even with here, I have talked about in the past that I have a show car. For those of you who remember the TV show Knight Rider, Kit, which was the black Trans Am, that was the first AI. He didn't actually exist. It was fake in the studios. This is 1980, but actually DARPA had it, and that's probably where they came up with the whole idea. The point of this is the guy who's working on my car, he and his girlfriend had developed a program that you could speak to Kit, and Kit, then AI, would speak back to you, and you could carry on an entire conversation. The problem was what they had not expected. The software in the car, whenever it got next to Wi-Fi, would hook itself up, and it was learning all of this stuff, and it started to go kind of haywire, a little berserk. They were at one car show, and the guy came up and called him the Batmobile, and he went off on a 5-minute tirade of how he was not the Batmobile. And they had to literally unplug, take the computer chip out of it, and he was done. So he couldn't connect to Wi-Fi anymore.
And they were each looking at each other like, did you teach it how to do that? No, I didn't.
That was, I think, the first time that I was like, that's scary, because it was teaching itself. So if you have a car that's doing that and everything is electrified, then it would be able to drive itself, which we have that. However, you don't get too far from Stephen King's Christine. Would it drive itself to hurt someone?
Oh, yeah.
Would it drive itself into somebody to kill them? Which we actually have seen some videos of AI going rogue in cars.
We watched a few clips where there was AI that, because we talked a little bit about how it would blackmail someone if it heard that it was going to be discontinued, or if they were going to a new one or whatnot. Well, in this point, it was, say, in a factory, and it was just like they were doing some tests, thankfully, and to see how AI would respond, and they let it read emails on the server that were talking that they were going to go to a different kind of AI or whatnot, and it literally was releasing toxic fumes into the system. Or there was one that there was some AI powered in a warehouse, and it was going to run somebody over. I mean, it was terrifying.
That's what I'm saying. We're not too far off. The car could then just take off and try to either take off and run away, or else kill someone. Yeah. If it runs on gas, you're not going to get very far, but until it runs out. And if it's a Trans Am, trust me, it won't get as far as what it thinks.
That's true.
And if it's electric, it won't get that far either. Within a 300-mile radius.
But you can still do a lot of damage in that radius.
Investigative journalist Annie Jacobson has uncovered, she knows that the Pentagon is investing heavily in robotics, more than we even realize.
And we talked numbers last time, and those were pretty big numbers. So,
and DARPA's plan through 2038 states that without question that the Pentagon is moving towards robotic warfare completely. That's really not that far away. You're talking 12 years. 12 years we would be, although I think it would be sooner than that.
100%, because we'll get into that here in a little bit, but we're already there, and there are already some countries that are using autonomous robots in warfare as we speak today.
Well, they want hunter-killer drones that swim, crawl, walk, and run. But here's the cool thing. I didn't even think about drones as missiles. So you think of our ballistic missiles. They're huge, they're big. And they can only go so fast, because if they go any faster, it requires too much power and they will get too hot.
And they'll detonate.
But these new missiles are like drones. They can fly 13,000 miles an hour, which is 22 times faster than a commercial jet. Let that just soak in. And the picture of these, they look like almost a little bit of a glider without as big of a wings, but that's just this long, thin missile. I don't know how they get them that fast.
Well, and here's the thing. That's not going to be picked up on any radar, and if it was, it's going to be too late, because they're not going to be able to respond with, and really that's what this current AI war has come down to is who can beat the other's technology and
To respond.
and figure it out and respond.
So I have to laugh because, so I know my family's kind of eclectic, but so my grandfather was huge into antique guns, and I mean real antique stuff. And my dad then followed suit, and he had this one gun. It was a Chinese gun that we had above our mirror down in the basement, and it had a 4-foot barrel on the thing. But what made it so unique, it was one of the very first guns.
4 foot?
Yeah, 4 foot. Oh, long.
That's a lot. Okay.
A lot. But what made it really unique was it had a wick. So you had to light the wick and you had to wait for the wick to burn down. So it's like your cannon theory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to wait for it to get all the way down before then it would fire the shot. Right? Can you imagine doing warfare as you're both sitting there trying to light your wick or cut your wick down so that way you could shoot it off faster? So you think about how technology went from that to one that didn't need a wick, how much faster it is. And here we are now, take hundreds of years in advance. And again, a ballistic missile isn't fast enough. We have to have something that's 22 times faster.
Well, if you think of an intercontinental ballistic missile, that could be launched from somewhere in Europe and land in the United States. I mean, these are massive. There are things out in space that watch for that to help fight that. This is technology that surpasses that so much, like just beyond.
Well, thanks to DARPA, now missiles can travel at hypersonic speed, those ones that I talked about, without ever overheating. 500 miles away, they can hit a target in 6 minutes.
There is no response time fast enough for that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm talking about. We went from a Chinese gun that had a wick to then, I mean, just think of them going, wow, a 6-shooter, I mean, or whatever. I mean, that would just blow their brain to then, now we have an automatic assault rifle to
6 minutes, 500 miles away with a missile. So DARPA is always about 20 years ahead of civilian technology. So in the 1960s, they developed computers that could learn independently.
1960. I wasn't even born yet, and
Nope.
you definitely weren't born yet.
Nope.
In the 1980s, it launched the SCI, Strategic Computing Initiative. The goal was to create military strategies, to run the strategies and then learn from them. So this is where we're getting into this first autonomous AI kind of. We're going to run the strategies, and then what can we learn and how fast can we learn it, all with computers.
Right. Well, that's where the movie War Games came from in the 1980s. It was originally going to be like a science fiction story about a dying scientist who's saved by a kid genius. But then writers met Peter Schwartz from the Stanford Research Institute, which SRI has been the launch pad for many secret government programs. So they have long been connected to the CIA, NSA, and DARPA. And there was this new subculture called hackers.
So this is where the movie writers decided, let's change gears. So they thought they would make a movie about a kid hacking into the government computer system, which actually exists. And you're going to love it. The name is Whopper. You know what it stands for?
Not a clue.
War Operation Plan Response.
Oh.
Not to be confused with the Big Mac.
Or the dog pound.
The movie came out, and DARPA was working on their own supercomputer. Now this movie, for those of you who grew up in the 80s, you saw War Games. She's young enough, she didn't, so I got to try to come up with a movie. I loved it as a kid because actually it was pretty scary. This is when video games were first coming out. We had Atari, Nintendo was just really kind of coming out. So this kid gets on a computer, and so it's Matthew Broderick when he's really young. And he starts, I don't know, he just thinks, somehow he taps in by accident to a government computer system. And he thinks he's playing a game because it starts talking back to him. Now you have to realize back then we didn't have anything that did that, but DARPA did. And that's where they got the idea from this movie. But so he starts talking back and forth, do you want to play a game? Sure. So he starts playing this game. He thinks he's playing a game, but really what he's doing is military strategizing. Long story short, if you've seen the movie, you know how it ends. If you have not, they basically start getting into this whole thing of, well, Russia's shooting missiles, so America's going to shoot missiles. And again, he thinks it's a game. And the Pentagon all of a sudden sees on their computer that Russia is getting ready to launch missiles, and they start panicking. And I mean, they think, because this is Cold War time, they think, okay, now we're at war. But there's one guy who I think he's been in a little more on this whole project along. He kind of has a bad feeling about it, because he asked, do we have any eyes in the sky? Does it look like they might be doing this?
Right, because it's just all on our computers, you know.
And he's waiting and he's waiting, and he finally, I mean, the whole movie takes a while, but he doesn't decide to fire back, because if he'd fired back, he would have been making the first move, yeah.
Because they weren't actually doing any of these things.
Long story of it, how it all works out is the only way they can get the computer to quit playing the game was to run through every scenario. So like if Russia shot all these missiles off and America shot them back, the whole world would basically be destroyed. And if America shot off the missiles and Russia shot off the missiles, and everywhere in the world would be destroyed. And so I had to go through all these multiple scenarios, and every time it kept coming up with the same thing.
Pretty much everything would be destroyed.
Including the computer. See, that was the first self-preservation. It decided that there was no, it was like checkmate. And I think that may be even what they used. You know, kind of like even in tic-tac-toe or in Scratch. There was no way you were going to win it. So that movie came out in the 80s. And now here we are, all this time later. I mean, their own supercomputer, this is in DARPA, it could do 10 billion instructions a second. It could hear, it could see, it could speak like a human and achieve a human brain. So did you know that? That's what I thought was fascinating. That a human brain has 10 billion instructions going through the whole system per second. And that's what they had to get a computer to be able to do, just to mimic what God has already created.
Well, that explains why
millennial ago.
That explains why my brain always feels like it's going 100 miles an hour.
My brain is always, and I can trigger in on at least 1 to 2 billion of these that are going on. Did you ever watch Toy Story? Number 2? At the very beginning. You know, Al's Chicken Barn, you know, he's got the ad going, and the animals are all around, and they're watching the TV, and they were looking for, I think it was Woody anyway. The pig's got the remote, and he's trying to find Al's Chicken Barn, and he does, and he gets it, and they're like, you missed it, and he goes, I'm going too fast, I gotta go around the horn. Go through all the channels.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, that was back when you didn't have 200 channels.
Right.
But I've always laughed that that's my brain, you know. I'm going too fast, gotta go around the horn. But that would be it. 10, this is what's should be mind-blowing. We are creating a machine, a software, a program to be able to duplicate what God has already done, but to perfection.
And we're creating it without one very important piece, and that's a soul.
Or morals.
Because it has none. It is inhuman. It is soulless. And there is no moral compass.
Well, see, and then as Christians, this is where that is the very danger of this. Because we know the demons are very prevalent. They can go inside pigs. They can go inside of people. If you have so we looked, if you got to go back and watch our alien ones, they're trying to create skin suits for the demons. However, if they don't need skin suits because we've already now created the technology,
they can very easily be a part of a robot.
They can just take over. I mean, they can take over in that innate object, so they could take over an AI. Only now they're treating it as though, Nephilim 2.0.
That's
Let that
frightening.
sink in.
Well, in the 1990s, 70% of what DARPA did was AI. I shudder to think what that percentage would look like today.
So they're using AI to create the stuff that there's not AI.
That's true. If we look a little bit more at warfare in the modern day and what's already being used, I was shocked at some of this. Ukrainians used AI-powered drones as well as ground forces to capture a Russian fortress, take prisoners without any humans being directly on the ground or in the air, and then use that AI to bring them back to the front lines.
Gee, does that sound familiar? What did America just do?
We had people on the... Well, we sent the discombobulator in first.
Not one life was lost because we used AI to go in, disable everything, got them, and then brought them back out. I mean, we used technology to go in ahead of time and then at least people went in after that. But in this case, they didn't. That information on Ukraine came from Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, and we talked about him last week. He's writing that book and has gone back to MIT and is learning about AI. And so he gave the information on the Ukraine and also on Mossad. So Mossad has also used AI in attacks on Iran, similar to kind of what we just talked about with what happened in Venezuela. So they were able to blind Iranian air defense system, kill chief scientists with precise targeting through AI. It's scary how advanced it's becoming. Well, and especially with what's going on in the news right now, with everything that Iran is doing, and they have, everybody was worried about them having nuclear capability, which they've had for quite a while. They always say, well, it's not the final, like we're really going to know. But if they have the AI...
That's even
just
scarier.
Like us, yeah. Well, here's the thing. China and Russia have AI, and they've been giving it out for free. America has not.
Right.
Well, there's a big difference. It's not that we're trying to just capitalize on it, but Russia and China, if they're giving AI for free, we mentioned this last week, then what is the tone going to be angled towards? Communism. We could have had spies, but I'm not saying that it's the spies who leaked that technology, because we have people all over the world that have this technology.
Oh,
in fact, China is way ahead of us in using it. I'm not saying I don't know who came up with what first, but they put it together first, and they're actually actively using it, the robots.
And they're willing to use it in ways that so far we haven't been, because they, I hate to say this, value human life less. Conversations are constantly being had to decide how best to use AI on the battlefield.
When you can have a war where lives would not be as much at stake as far as your military, well, that turns everything into a whole new playing field.
It does. But it brings up a lot of different questions. AI generates courses of actions for commanders, like in war games. It used to be people would bring ideas. AI can bring 10 or 100 possible options, or really almost an unlimited amount, to offer possible solutions. But a human has to take that data and pick what's best with humanity in mind. Well, you can see where that's going. The human mind can slow us down. Keeping humanity in mind can slow us down, because AI can give us so many more choices than we're used to. What's the next evolution of that is that humans and keeping humanity in mind is not going to be what happens. AI will be coming up with the possibilities and choosing autonomously what to do.
You stop to think about George Washington and the battle. And why did America survive? Why did we win? Was because we used guerrilla warfare tactics, and that's not how England did military strategy.
Right.
I'm just thinking, think if they'd had those dog things, or the SR, whatever. Just even that, how that would have changed the entire landscape that is in a human world where everything is dictated and run by humans. we as Christians live in a world that God has created, and even in all of this, and it might be getting your blood pressure rising, and you may be going, oh my gosh, because it's scary when you think about it.
It is.
Especially if you've thought about it, they're already doing it probably. But God is in control. And he always puts these speed bumps in the road. Something always happens to slow humanity down or slow technology down.
Until the time is right.
Exactly.
And those autonomous weapon systems, they're already in use. And they're going to become more and more commonplace. Killing platforms, resupply platforms. The Air Force is already risking loss of pilots because AI pilots or those kinds of things, they don't have to use the restroom or eat or rest. So every armed forces branch is being transformed.
Okay, well, just even go farther than that with the Air Force. Everyone's seen Top Gun, the original.
If you haven't, you really should.
Things of human error or poor judgment or knowing how far your limitation is, a human is maybe more apt to push it or not push it. AI knows exactly how far it can go, how high it can go, how fast it can go. It can go through every scenario in its computer data immediately and pick the right thing, where a human is going to maybe second guess themselves, even if they did come up with the right scenario. Goose would not have died if AI was flying then. Of course, Goose wouldn't have been in it, so he definitely wouldn't have died.
That's true. Lieutenant Colonel McGinnis says that we are already moving towards autonomous AGI that will make decisions to impact life and death. Whether or not to take human life, for instance. He says the Chinese are going to do it first and probably the Russians next because of that different value of human life. He hopes that the US won't do it, but he can see where it would be tempting. Humans can't make decisions as quickly as AI. But if you have something that is soulless, that is inhuman, making decisions on what an acceptable loss is. How many lives is worth saving the technology? How many lives is worth saving? Completely different. And when you have, I know that there are people that have to make those decisions at times. But I would like to think that their humanity helps them make the right one, hopefully. And when you take that out of it, I shudder to think that what the results would be.
And when you think about these new missiles, the hypersonic missiles, in 6 minutes, and that's at 500 miles. You know, if we had a ship off of shore or something like that, well, we could get to them or they could actually get to our ship way less than 6 minutes. Just boom, right away.
In the twinkling of an eye.
It doesn't give any time for reaction, really. Well, so those are the things that we're talking about that could be the cons and pros. But this is another pro. I mean, besides not as much lives lost and quicker reactionary time. Think of the places that AI-powered things can go that before people would have had, they couldn't go. Think of underwater. You know, we can only go as a human so deep, and then the pressure's too much. We can't go anymore, but AI could go. And they could retrieve things. They could, so if there was weapons or just even treasure hunting, you know, they could all sorts, but it could potentially save lives. About retrieving bombs. I mean, we have bomb squads that go in, and those poor guys have to risk their life and limb just going in to detonate a bomb. If you could send an AI robot in there.
Well, and I know they already have robots that will go in and kind of pick it up and contain it, but imagine having one that could diffuse it.
Exactly, and it's going to know. Don't get in there sweating and go, is it the red one or the red one?
I was going to say, it's going to know which one to
know, and probably know the manufacturer and who made it and how they put it together.
This is accelerating at an exponential rate. Whether we think it's a good idea or not, it's happening. Lieutenant Colonel McGinnis talked in his last book that Chinese and other adversaries would use malware and AI to take out our infrastructure. So this is another level of scary. The ability to have water, power, internet, phone, It wouldn't take much, and there's been a lot of studies
Well,
like
this is the EMP.
Yes, I was just
And
going to say.
they're working on it. They've been working on it for a long time. I remember back, well, wasn't that terribly long ago when they were talking about using it. Everybody had to be prepared. You needed to have extra, and it wasn't just COVID. It was because an EMP was going to happen, and it was going to wipe everything. Well, you would be back to horse and buggy day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would take out everything. One thing that I just thought was fascinating and terrifying all at the same time. There's been lots of people who've been involved in AI technology through the years that have stepped away from it because they realized that it was dangerous. Jeffrey Hinton, known as the godfather of AI, says that he gives a 10 to 20% chance that there will be a super AI or AGI that will kill us all, like an extinction event, or take control, and it will be soulless and immoral in nature.
Let's just break this down. We have the guy who is the godfather of AI. He was one of the main pioneers doing this, knowing full well what implications could be, but they still went ahead and pursued it and still brought it to fruition. And then he retires early in 2023 after getting the Nobel Prize, so that way he can speak freely about all the cons and all the bad things about AI that they've just created. That sounds very vaguely familiar, like what we just did last year with the gal who was the creator of the CRISPR technology with DNA altering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, this was push, and then the minute she does it, she goes, oh, well, you know, I see all these bad things that could happen. And we could be in for a lot of problem if there is no moral compass. That's at the ultimate core of all this stuff. You know, God did not want us to have all this technology. Mm-hmm. This was forbidden technology that the fallen realm has given us, that we were never supposed to have.
And really, we're not designed to be faced with these decisions. We shouldn't have to. Recently, 40 of the best scientists in the world got together and said that we are on the verge of not being able to understand how AI thinks. Once we can no longer understand what it thinks, it's going to do whatever it wants. And then there will be no stopping it.
This goes back to what we mentioned with the show Westworld. Well, yeah, it was more of the X-rated, probably R-rated. But that was the entire point of this, was AIs that had been created for amusement, for pleasure, and then they become autonomous. They start taking on human to the point where you don't know what's human and what's robot. And they are thinking and they are interacting, and then there's the survival mode, yet still soulless. Mm-hmm. Well, studies have shown that when people become overly reliant on generative AI, their productivity initially goes up, but over time, their ability to think critically goes down, as does the diversity and uniqueness of what they make. Super Bowl commercials. I lost count of how many of them were all around AI. And that was exactly it. It was the one that, what was the actor you said?
Matthew Broderick.
Okay, Matthew Broderick. So here we go. He's going through a workplace scenario, mm-hmm. telling him, oh, like it was not Gemini, not ChatGPT, not Copilot.
Jenna Spark or something like that?
Yeah, something. Another one. Oh, I can make the graphs. I can do this. I can do that. Take the day off. Take the day off. Take the day off. Everybody, because AI was working for them and they didn't have to work and it was done in a flash. And so they could take the day off. The problem is they're not going to just get the day when the boss realizes that I don't need any of you. I can just use AI. You're all fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it made it sunshine and roses when really they're presenting what's going to happen. You know, and I think this is so interesting because we talk about this a lot. The ultimate goal is to dumb us down. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's lots of people that think that is some massive conspiracy theory. But look at what's been happening over time. They're taking away our ability to think critically, taking out diversity, taking out uniqueness.
Well, think about the arts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, AI is writing the music. AI is, doing thumbnails. But now, what about the people who were getting paid a lot of money, because that's what they did, was they could paint pictures, could bring emotions up from a soul, you know, or songs that just had the most beautiful lyrics. Oh yeah, I can do it. Well, it can, but...
You know, and I would say the risk, even with that, is a little bit deeper, because to me, our creativity is one of the ways we reflect the nature of God, because God is in his very nature creative. I mean, look at everything he created. And so when we get to create, when you have people that have that creative nature and those creative abilities, that is their reflection of God in this world.
And we are made in the image of God.
Right.
It doesn't just mean we think of image and we think of how we look. No, our very characteristics, and that being one of them, creativity, is one of the images of God that we are created in.
So they can mimic it, they can fake it, they can make it look, they can take all of the examples from all around the world and put something out there, but it is not the same.
All this really sounds familiar. In the Bible, I've talked a lot about the deportation, because that's the pivotal point. And why? Because King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had the idea that if I go into Jerusalem and I just don't go into Israel and I conquer it all. What fun is that? I am going to take the people and bring them back to Babylon. And I'm going to integrate them into my society. And I'm going to integrate, because he knew that they were some of the brightest and some of the wisest people. I'm going to then submerge them into my culture. And within a generation, I will have turned them away from their God. And they won't even remember it. And they will be my servants, basically. He did it without violence. Guess what is going on right now?
They are doing the same thing, but from within.
Yeah.
They didn't have to move us anywhere.
Maybe just mental state. We're not trying to make AI necessarily evil. Again, it is a tool. There are things that it is wonderful for, and it can help, and it can speed up the process. But as Christians, we are called to be faithful stewards of this time with these technologies.
The more powerful the technology, the greater the need for discipline and discernment. We have to turn to God and ask for his guidance in all of this.
And his wisdom. Otherwise, what are you discerning? And that is ultimately going to take wisdom from God. Again, this stuff, we're just like you guys. I mean, the research we've done, the more you watch, and again, what we watch yesterday has been obsolete since the day before yesterday.
It has.
It is so crazy. And that's why, for the most part, people aren't even paying attention, because you can't keep up with it. It is constantly moving. And I get that. And it can, if you just focused on this, it would scare you so bad you couldn't sleep at night, because your brain, doing 10 billion things a second, is thinking about all the loops that aren't good. But here's the point. Jesus said, in this world you'll have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And we know that he is the Word. We know that he was in the beginning and he is in the end. We also know that we are created in the image of God, something that all the AI in the world can never be. And we know that our God is in control. And here's the thing, go back and watch our series on Revelation. We go into depth on this, and we're going to get into it next time as well. Just know that with all the doom and gloom that's out there, with everybody hollering the sky is falling or gravity will be lifting on August 12th, we'll get into that later. Or Apophis hitting in 2029. Yeah. God is still in control. And he has told us these things in Revelation, so we will not be scared. So we will not be faint of heart. We can trust. We can trust in a God who started all of this. We can trust in Jesus Christ, who is our Savior, who does give us peace that passes all understanding. with the chaos and the craziness that's going on in this world.
He's who allows us to sleep at night and to know that ultimately, no matter what happens with all of this, we get to go to heaven. And this will be just the blink of an eye. All of this will pass because this is temporary.
And no matter how you upload your consciousness onto some chip, it's just going to go into nowhere, trust me. The only way for eternal life is through Jesus Christ. We've given you a lot more to chew on in this episode. And make sure you come back next time for even more. Because what you know,
you can't unknow.
And what you choose to do with that is up to you. But you
can't say, we didn't tell you.
Until next time.
Shalom.